My name is Matthias. I'm one of the founders of Worksome, and this is Sam.
I'm the UK manager.
And we've been looking very much forward to joining this because we are working with more and more companies in different sectors, and basically help them to kind of get their foot in into the rise of the freelance workforce and that whole mega trend in the right way. Most companies are not very far down that route. In some industries, they are relying completely only on freelance work to do what they want to do. But in most industries, it's still a rather new thing. It's still kind of this workforce that lives on the side of their actual workforce, their full-time hires. And we just wanted to bring a staggering number to your attention. I'm just going to end the boat here for now, so you can better see. And there we go. Oops. Yeah. So 40% of the workforce in Europe will be freelancers by 2025. Now, when we talk about this, almost all the time people say like, no, that can't be true. That's way too much. That doesn't make any sense. The reason why it is happening and the reason why it does make sense is because work as we know it is changing in its core nature. So we used to come from a world where our parents basically told us to like grow up, get a haircut, get a nice education, then get a job and work in a traditional job. Was the story for most of us, which basically means get hired exclusively by one company at a time, work 100% or use 100% of your work capacity for that company, and kind of get married until one of the parties want a divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's breaking up, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the kind of companies we're talking to, I mean, Matthias is ex-Google, and I heard recently that they're now in Europe over 50% contract. And I mean, you know, what that's really showing is that the companies that are, I mean, as competitive as Google, but certainly can think on their feet, change their tact, and be agile in the way that you test new ideas and actually truly be cutting edge, means that you can't have a workforce that looks like this. You know, this is essentially, this is the structure, and we use this in a few of our sales decks, don't we, really, when we're talking to clients, is this is the setup of businesses today, really. You know, and this was the setup 300 years ago during the Industrial Revolution. It's the idea that people are married to their jobs and they're, I mean, for all intents and purposes, going in for a time, clocking in, clocking out, and they're there to do well, you know, generalist things.
Something very foreseeable often. It was all about designing a lean machine, and you could foresee to a larger degree which kind of roles and people you would need as part of your workforce going forward. It was a lot about planning ahead for the future, whereas now, and this basically is a structure that was created in the industrial age, and we inherited most of the principles and brought them into this digital world that we're living in now, where they actually don't work. So yeah. Maybe a lot of you can recognize this picture from the recent months. It could look like my home, maybe a little more messy at my place, but I'm sure they cleaned up before they took this picture.
Yeah, definitely. But this is the reality right now. Like, you know, how many of you guys put in the chat or the Q&A, if you're working from home, say I'm working from home. You know, this is the reality now. We've all had these in our hands and pockets for the last kind of 15, 20 years. Have they really been used? No. Have companies really been taking advantage of that? No. And actually, it's taken a pandemic where we all have to stay at home, the businesses really to truly look at how they activate projects, how they resource. And you guys all, as you know, there's a reason we signed up for IHR. A lot of our core users, the people that really reap the benefits of what Worksome does, are people in in-house recruitment, resourcing and talent functions who have now got the okay from their bosses to try things that are new because of this very reason. You know, you've got specialists working from home, and perhaps you're looking at your workforce in a very different way.
So here's a little question to get the thoughts going. So how many different jobs do you think you'll have in your lifetime? Just kind of think of a number. Is it 5? Is it 10, 15? How many different jobs will you actually have?
Again, it'd be quite interesting to see if you want to put in the chat or the Q&A a number of jobs. That'd be quite interesting. Not sure if we can even look at it, can we?
So this is some recent research showing the amount of it's actually not jobs, it's employers, because you can have technically many different jobs at the same employer. So this is different employers, and as you can see, it doubles per generation. So it's an exponential trend, just like the technology in the digital world evolves exponentially. And it's super interesting that the generation that is just entering the workforce now will have 32 different employers during their career. Is it going to be 25? Is it going to be 38? Who knows? It's big enough so that the average tenure is down so low that what we call traditional full-time employment and contracting and freelancing are melting together. The average tenure is lower than 2 years in most of the industries that we work with anyway. In tech, we're based in London. And what that means is that the whole workforce is going towards more flexibility, more moving around. The amount of changes in jobs are increasing exponentially, apparently. And it's really, really hard to keep the existing old structures that we have used in the 90s and 90s and the zeros to work for us still.
What I find interesting about these stats is that it's not just applying to essentially kids, right, who are going into, they're finishing uni or they're finishing school and they're going to work. This isn't just applying for them. You know, whether you're in IT, whether you're in creative, whether you're in HR, finance, what we're seeing more and more of is actually senior level people becoming consultants so that they can also have that flexibility. You know, it's a social movement, and it's really been sparked truly by coronavirus, in that there's no more barriers, there's no more people wedded to their desk, and actually this is going to, you know, this is impacting everybody.
Yeah, and it's not like all jobs are moving to freelance at all, and that it should be like that. But companies are generally operating in a world where the complexity increases, international influence, competition from outside, from abroad, and kind of their access to markets globally is also increasing. And that means that it's not about designing a workforce for this lean, foreseeable machine, which, for instance, is a challenge when you go for only hiring full-time hires, where the time to hire is typically very long. I'm pretty sure you know it, but you know, it's about justifying the headcount first, then you get freed up some headcount so you can actually hire, then posting jobs, assessing candidates, doing interviews, finding the right person who needs to get out of another job a couple of months later, onboarding that person. And from the moment the company had a need for hiring a role until that person is up and running, creating value, it's just way too long in many scenarios, given the complexity of the world that we live in, especially now during Corona. And so we're basically, you know, and Worksome, our company, and the technology that we're building is basically enabling companies to go from this reality that most companies live in now, where they kind of think in terms of full-time ownership of their staff, into a future, which I think is now, to be fair, where it's more about access to their knowledge and access to the right people.
Yeah, I think if you're sitting at, you know, your laptop right now, thinking about how this applies to you and your company, I mean, we've made it really clear we're not going to be doing a demo. We're not going to be talking too much about us. I think this is we want to spark a thought with you guys to think how, you know, out of all the roles that I've hired for over the last 12 months, how many of them have been perm, and how many of them are actually still roles available in the business now? Yeah,
and also, do you even ask the question if it's should be a freelancer or a perm, or is it by default always a perm? Because it's getting harder and harder to kind of just access talent. And often what we see in the freelance economy is that things are speeding up. It's going much faster. We'll get down to some numbers in a second on our average time to hire and how much traction you get on job posts, etc., and how fast. But basically, the stuff that we're building, the platform that we give you access to, is one where you should imagine what would happen if you had access to all of the world's talent at your fingertips. That's basically what we're building. We're applying technology that helps solve the recruitment challenge, given that the average, tenure is dropping really fast. More and more people are shifting around in the market super fast, and it's really, I'm pretty sure you know it, but it's for instance tackling problems such as posting a job post on LinkedIn and getting, how many did we get for our last job post?
Over 1,000 in a week.
Over 1,000 applications in a week, which is ridiculous. Honestly, no one wants 1,000 applications. If you get 1,000 applications, it's just noise. It's probably not your fault, but it's because the technology, the platform that you use to post it, do not match effectively. Of course, it's got to do with supply and demand in the market as well, but it's useless to work on 1,000 candidates.
And the thing is here is that I think what's really important to say is that we're not preaching you should drop everything and only hire consultants. It's this line here of imagine having all of the world's talent at your fingertips. If you're taking the view strategically that in the future people want more flexibility, people want to be able to do things they love, people want to work on things they're passionate about, ultimately you've got to remove all the friction. And we talk about this quite a lot here. We've got a lot of guys in Worksome who are at Google, and it's a lot of things we talk about is removing friction. Friction being posting the job advert and getting 1,000 people apply. That's instantly giving you a load of paperwork to do. Typically, contracts has been, such an admin hassle, a compliance hassle, a legal and tax nightmare that it's not even worth thinking about sometimes. And I think with technology and automation, what we're showing clients now is that you can have talent at your fingertips. You don't have to worry about the rest of it. So I think we'll go through some kind of product stuff, won't we, now? And ultimately, look, I think this kind of resonates with recruiters from my experience anyway. How many of you guys were recruiters? How many of you have worked in recruitment long enough to remember, Reed on the high street and things like that? I don't know, they're probably still there. Reed might even be on the cool. Whoops. So, that's kind of what's happening. In fact, that's fully what's happening, especially given that over the last 6 months, the world's been like getting to know Zoom for the first time. We're doing a Zoom conference right now. All that friction, and in this case, friction was getting in the car and going down to the job office. It's going to be totally removed, and in a lot quicker than we previously anticipated. It will be a thing of the past, I think, won't it?
Yeah. So the question is really, are you in your company, like most companies, hiring more freelancers or less freelancers going forward? It might not be in absolute numbers, but in proportion to your total workforce. Is this going to increase or is it going to drop in the future? Most companies will see that it increases, not only because they are typically interested in that themselves, because they want the flexibility, they want the cost to be more variable, they want the ability to scale up and down really fast, but also because a lot of the people, a lot of the talent that they want to attract will tell them that that is how they want to get hired, because they want to work in that way. We've got over 30,000 vetted freelancers on the Worksome platform, and we ask them every year if they prefer to be freelancing or would rather want a traditional job. And bear in mind that these are all highly skilled, generally imagine, IT engineers, mechanical engineers, UX designers, typically with long educations. And a lot of these, once they've chosen freelancing as their craft, the way to work, that's what they want. Mm-hmm. And they would rather trade the flexibility, the ability to kind of bring a lot of ownership into their projects over money.
Yeah, and for the company, that means you're working with your workforce on real deliverables, practical outcomes, as opposed to having people at their desk accepting projects that they might not actually be the best people to work on.
Some of the interesting things we've done with recruitment teams in client companies is basically running experiments on whenever they were looking for a hire, which they would typically want as a full-time hire. Yeah. Then we kind of gave them the challenge, just try and also post the job on the Worksome platform and see what kind of talent you can attract from the freelance workforce. And often they find that they can attract highly qualified people from the freelance workforce who are very interested in joining for the sake of the project and solving that and applying their skills. And they might be up for joining, for a year, but they don't necessarily want that full-time contract commitment, marrying your company forever. But they definitely want to work on the project if it is scoped right. It could also be that they say, I'm the best in my field. Here's all my experience. This is my rate. But I want to work on the project 3 days a week. And if you as a company are not kind of flexible in accepting those terms coming from the talent side, then it's really hard to actually get access to the best people out there. It's a very hard requirement to say that you must work 40 hours a week.
The interesting thing as well, looking at the data, is that you read about average tenures in the UK, and you look at some of the big tech companies, or you look at whatever company. I think the averages are around like 16, 18 months. That's the average tenure in the UK right now. The average contract length on Worksome is not too far off that, and we only work with freelancers and contractors. So there really isn't much between it.
So this is just a snapshot of the platform. So maybe you're wondering, we get the premise of the growing freelance workforce and the rise of the freelance workforce and why it's interesting and so on. But how does it actually work, and what is Worksome? So this is just showing some snapshots of the platform. And when I say platform, it's basically a marketplace in which you can tap in to thousands and thousands and thousands of vetted freelancers, contractors. Imagine that they apply to become part of the Worksome marketplace, and we have a thorough vetting process before we give anyone access to be a freelancer on Worksome. So what they do is they sign up, they give all the details about their skill, education, work history, rates, location, etc., what kind of projects, their industry experience, and they are basically sitting latently on the platform and ready to work.
And fundamentally as well, the technology we're building is supporting companies who want to involve their own talent, their own recruitment consultancies. We're certainly, my view anyway, I think our view internally is to really build technology to remove that friction, so that you should be able to find people whoever they are, wherever they are, at the right time, in budget, with the right skill set. That's the most important thing. But you should be able to look through who's worked for your business in the last 18 months, which recruitment consultants usually place those kind of people at your business. You should be able to look through all of the data available to you in order to find the right person.
And then what we've done is we've made it entirely free to post jobs, to communicate, to look over shortlist, to bring on your team. Everything is free. The only way we charge is if you hire a freelancer or more freelancers on the platform, we charge a small fee of 4% for doing that. So it's only charged if you are successful in finding the right people. Also, what we do is we make sure that everything is done compliantly as we handle the contractual agreement directly on the platform, including NDAs. It can be customized fully to whatever requirements you have. Right to work checks. It could be working across both PAYE and traditional freelancing, including IR35 when that comes into play, if that's a challenge in your company. And we also pay out the freelancers. So that means that it's a one-stop shop for it if you want to. It can be used in flexible ways, but it's basically, find the perfect freelancer for your project and we'll take care of all the hassle.
I think really quickly, I'm aware we're running out of time slightly. So we're going to just rattle through how companies use us. And I think, again, I think our marketing director's posting Calendly links. If you want to click on those, put a time in our diary, the best way to talk about what we do and how we can support you guys is by talking to us directly. So let's do that.
Yeah, so this is just really quickly some of the companies that we work with. In short, you post a job, you get applications within the hour typically. On average, we bring you 5 vetted candidates that are ready to work on your project within 5 hours.
Yeah.
It handles compliance, it uses AI matching technology, and it's entirely free until you find the person that you want to work with.
And the outcomes of it are pretty cool. So starting from the top, the large enterprises we work with, IPG, if you don't know them, are a large advertising network. They own tens of agencies. What we've done for them is manage lots of different entities globally, so that we're bringing all of their talent pool together and really looking at what they do, enforcing robust processes, certainly around NDAs, contracts, I-35 determinations, managing recruiter ownerships, so that on average we're saving just under 3.5 grand per contractor. Going down into one of the agencies, what we actually do practically for their business is enforce their own contracts, speed up time so that the talent acquisition team, the in-house recruiters, can concentrate on permanent hires. The thing we kept hearing time and time again from individual companies is that they don't have time to hire the CFO because they're too busy mucking around hiring an iOS developer on a 6-month contract. What we showed pretty quickly was that by putting jobs out to a marketplace, you're not only opening up international corridors, but you're lowering day rates because you're opening up to a marketplace. Lego found exactly the same. So Lego's digital team specifically wanted digital people. For the first time now with Worksome, they're able to resource internationally. They're able to unlock talent pools in the States. And this isn't like Upwork or Fiverr or other freelancer platforms. This is quality vetted freelancers. And we do exactly the same with your jobs. We vet them to make sure they're good enough for the freelancers. And we work with those startups as well. We've got now 10,000 companies that use the platform regularly. Spotless here, who we recently found out were funded by Eric Dyer, the England footballer, but they had no technical expertise whatsoever, looking for back-end developers and iOS developers, and they found them super quickly internationally.
So basically what they do is they post their jobs on the Worksome platform. Our technology reaches out and matches, for instance, iOS developers that have some skills that they're looking for given the brief, and that can work on that brief, and they apply with their rates. So they have an incoming shortlist of a handful or 2 vetted freelancers who are ready to jump on that project, and they can have whatever process around these guys to interview them, etc. But basically, it's right there.
So guys,
all right,
should we see what's on the Q&A?
Let's do it. So remember, if this sounds remotely interesting to you or someone in your company, book a time for a demo in the Calendly link here. So calendly.com/Worksome.
Yeah.
All right, great. Is there any?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, pop them over and we'll, here we go, we've got one open.
It's the most weird and wonderful roles you guys have found a freelancer for. So one of the first, when we first entered the UK, we had a startup company. I think they were developing a new technology for ironing shirts, and they were building basically a new type of iron. So they were looking for, I think, a mechanical engineer who could come in and basically help them figure out if the technology part of that idea was sound or not. So that is a weird and wonderful one, because it's one of these things where they didn't even know specifically what they were looking for, but they could describe it from their end. Like, this is our challenge.
It was an actual job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They could describe it on their end. What's the challenge we want solved? And we could bring it to the freelancers who had the right qualifications using the matching technology in our platform, and basically present it to 100 people instantly, of which maybe 8 people applied and said, like, let's work together. That's an interesting challenge. I've worked on similar kinds of things before. Here's my rate. I can start on Monday. Do you want to jump on a quick call this afternoon, and let's get it going?
Yeah.
But basically, imagine that on the Worksome marketplace, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of roles going through every month, with companies posting everything from they need a graphic designer for a 2-day project, brushing up a PowerPoint, all the way up to that they want an interim CEO who's a specialist in turnarounds in the media industry, to join the company for 12 to 18 months, manage a full turnaround, staff a new team, create a new strategy, and that's it. And the reason why it makes a ton of sense is that the challenge that they're looking for is to go through a turnaround. There are experts at turnarounds, in particular industries out there. And basically what we do is we find those people and bring them right in front of you. That's how it works.